Why do you want to be a doctor? So here's the classic question, and it's frequently one of the more difficult questions for students to cope with. Developing the answer that you give is super hard because your reasons are so varied. A lot of times your reasons are more feeling based than intellectual. So it's sometimes difficult to express your motivation, to call it something when it's really a feeling. And oftentimes there's no one reason why you want to be a doctor. But the question sounds like there should be just one single reason, and I'm supposed to know this exact answer, and my answer is supposed to be perfect, and it's supposed to fit this exact model, and so forth. None of that is really true. So instead, you are now free to share a variety of reasons of why you want to be a doctor, and then focus on one main reason. And then I want you to tell your main reason, but I want you to tell the main reason in the form of a story so that you can really get the expression out. You can really get the feeling you have out into the interviewer rather than trying to analyze or describe the feeling directly. So here's the structure that I'm talking about. So the interviewer asks you, why do you want to be a doctor? And first I want you to start by acknowledging this question and say something along the lines of, that is a great question. Or you could say, I'm really glad you asked. You want to show the interviewer that you get it, that this is an important question, and that this is a question that you're looking forward to answering, and that you're excited about answering, and that you've thought about. So after you acknowledge the interviewer, then I want you to pause, and I want you to show on your face that you're thinking about your answer. So you acknowledge the question. That's a great question. And you kind of look up, breathe for a second, and you just, think about your answer. And then you say, honestly, there's a lot of reasons why I want to be a doctor. And now you give 4 to 6 reasons in bullet form. I can tell you about the calling that I feel internally. I can tell you about my early life experiences with my parents as doctors. I could talk about how I've confirmed my motivation to medicine as an adult through my volunteer experiences. I could talk about my passion for medicine and so forth. And then the last step is you transition to your main reason. And the main reason, when you describe your main reason, you describe the main reason in the form of a story about an experience that you've had. But the main reason, and so here's how you would to transition. You'd say, but the main reason why I want to be a doctor comes from, and then you start to tell the story of the experience. Comes from an experience that I had, blah, 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 and then you tell a story. And ideally, the story summarizes your feeling state about medicine. And maybe you feel like it's a tremendous gift. And so, the main reason why I want to be a doctor comes from an experience that I had where I observed a physician basically return this patient's life back to them. And I felt so incredibly humbled and blessed. That's something I want to do for the rest of my life. Or maybe it was something that the doctor achieved, or maybe it was something that you did or that you achieved. Some experience that you had internationally, perhaps. Something that happened locally. And the trick, if you will, of the story piece is that you want to take a very, very finite amount of time and describe what happened in that finite amount of time in some detail. So that finite amount of time might only be like a 3 or 4 minute segment. Let's say you have volunteered for 100 hours in a hospital. But of that 100 hours, you can think of like 1 or 2 moments where you're like, wow, that was awesome. So you pick one of those and you tell that story in just that 3 to 5 minute window of experience that you had. And then you relate it to how it really moved you and how it has really shared with you, shown you why medicine is such a big deal. Maybe you saw a patient be resuscitated. And I saw this patient, and the patient was coding, and there's always running and chaos, and I was blown away by the commitment that the doctors and the nurses had to keeping this patient alive, and the teamwork and the precision, and they all knew what their role was, and I just knew I wanted to be a part of that team. I felt tremendous frustration because I couldn't help. I didn't have the skills to help, but I knew I was needed. I could see it, that there was an opportunity for me to participate. But I really want to have that opportunity. I really want to be part of that, and I want to save this life. So the story aspect is it's the radio that carries, it's the song that carries the emotion. So you sing the song, you tell a story, and let the interviewer sort of appreciate the story, and then the emotion comes from within it. And that is how you really, really dial in and you just ace, why do you want to be a doctor?